Hey everybody, back in the studio again today with our good friend Rick from Nesco and Chard. Hey, I'll tell you, Rick, again, it's all about utilizing your wild game. And today I've got some elk that I brought in, and I wanted to make some jerky, and I wanted you to come in and go through some of the dehydrators, so I'm more knowledgeable, and that's what I want to teach everybody else out there. So this meat actually is from last year. It's getting to be almost a year old. So I want to utilize it, and my thoughts is that I'm going to make up just a ton of this jerky, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to vacuum seal it in the proper, amounts that I want, and I'm going to put it back in the freezer.
It's a perfect way to use up either your whole meat or your ground meat, and vacuum sealing it is a really good idea. If you vacuum seal it after you make it, it prevents the meat from absorbing outside moisture, which is you want to keep it dry. And the interesting thing about jerky is that it's cured, not cooked. All right, so when you cure it, you're drying it out, you're adding a salt, basically a salt cure to it, and that's preserving the meat. But if we don't put it in a vacuum seal bag or you don't protect it, it'll reabsorb the moisture because it's drier than what the air is, and that's what makes it jerky, okay? So we want to make sure we vacuum seal it, and freezing's a great idea. It'll last longer. And hey, what a great way to use up your meat, right?
It is. When I thought about that, I looked in the freezer the other day and I was like, boy, it was a nice animal, and I ate a lot of elk meat over the summer, but I'm like, there's a lot left there, and unfortunately all the steaks were gone, but I have a ton of hamburger left, so I want to utilize it. And again, going back to making jerky with it, to me, just made the most sense because I love jerky. And I like different flavors, too. I like to mix it up a little bit. And I know you guys sell a lot of different flavors when it comes to making jerky.
And we do. And, today we're going to do teriyaki, which is one of my favorites. I really like teriyaki. We got hot and spicy. We have original, and we have a crushed pepper and garlic. I really like that one. But one of the things about a jerky that I really like is you can doctor it up how you like it.
Right.
A lot of people will start with the original. They'll add some crushed red pepper. Or they'll add some brown sugar to it. They make it theirs. They make the flavor that they want. But I'll tell you what, if you just use our seasoning package, you're not going to go wrong. They're all extremely flavorful. But the big thing is we have a cure pack right here that's got salt and cure components to it. That's really important for the longevity of the meat to make sure it's shelf stable.
Okay.
All right, so what we have here today, we have 4 pounds of elk that we're starting with, and I can see by looking at it, it's been mixed with pork.
There's some fat in there.
There's some fat in it. One of the things I'll get some complaints sometimes because, hey, I use the ground meat venison, and it kind of fell apart on me. The reason it falls apart is it needs that fat component to hold that jerky together.
Bind it together.
Yeah, and there's 2 types of jerky you can do. You can do that ground meat jerky, which is what we're doing today, or you can do a whole meat jerky. And whole meat's your traditional jerky. You slice it in thin slices. You marinate it, maybe 48 hours in your refrigerator. You put it on the dehydrator. You can even do it on a smoker. Dehydrators probably work the best because of the temperature control.
Consistency.
You get that consistency through it, and you can kind of watch it, make sure that it's where you want it to be, because it can be more dry, less dry. I'll tell you this, a little trick of the trade. If it's a little less dry, it has a little bit more flavor, but it doesn't last long. Got to go in the refrigerator. But you want it to last a long time. You want to go on a camping trip. You dry that out a lot, and it'll be shelf stable for a long time. So, again, back to our ground meat. We have a jerky gun here today. We have the fat content. We're going to add our seasoning packs to it, and we're going to extrude it out onto the trays. We're going to put it in the dehydrator, and we're going to dry it about 8 hours.
Okay.
It's give or take depending on the ambient humidity that we're in. But about 8 hours is about what you're going to want to dry your jerky. And what you want to look for is when you're tearing it apart, you want to make sure that it actually kind of snaps a little bit. That's going to be nice and dry. Now, it'll bend. That's going to be okay, too. But, again, the more moisture content in it, the shorter time period that it'll last. It'll mold up. You don't want that. That's why the freezer's nice as well. Helps preserve it for a little bit longer.
Well, I'll tell you what, around my house, there's nothing that's going to last very long because them kids, they grab that and go with it. And you know how it is. When you go on a trip, or you were saying even before, it's kind of fun when somebody does something special for you. Instead of like going out and buying them something, you give them something that you made And boy, I'll tell you, anytime when I'm on a fishing trip and somebody brings me hot sticks or jerky,
Oh, yeah.
you know, that's homemade. I mean, it's pretty hard to beat.
Well, it almost always is a good lead into a story too, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, you shot an elk. Elk's a big animal. I'm sure there's a fantastic story that goes with it.
And there is.
You know, and you start eating that jerky and telling the story, and it's a nice time together. It's a nice conversation point. Brings people together. There's nothing like breaking bread together to bring you closer to somebody. And personally,
I like your thinking on that.
I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so today, again, we have our seasoning package
Okay.
right here. This is teriyaki. It's gonna be real easy for us to do. We're gonna tear it open. That's it.
And all the kits basically are set for 4 pounds of meat.
2 pounds.
Oh, 2 pounds.
Yeah,
of meat.
Each
okay,
one is
so we're
2
doing
pounds.
a double here.
Yeah,
Yep.
so we're gonna do a double because we have 4 pounds here. And that's all we're gonna do is just dump it in there like that. There we go. And then we're gonna take our cure, do the same thing, tear it off. And like I said, this is pretty much just salts.
When it comes to finding the jerky kits and the dehydrators, what's the best place as far as trying to buy this stuff?
Well, I'll tell you, most of the major retailers carry our products. Flea Farm locally carries our products. That's always a good one to look for.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really want to learn a lot because we have a lot of different dehydrators, go to our website.
Okay.
Nesco.com. That's Nesco.com. You can read all about our dehydrators. You can purchase on there as well, but find out which one is right for you. We have ones that are stainless steel like this. We have expandable units like this one over here that go up to 30 trays. Find the one that's right for you, and then go and make your purchase after that.
So I got to ask you this. Since you have so many different dehydrators, do you have a favorite yourself?
I do.
You do, huh?
Well, you know, being in it and,
Yeah.
and working with it, I'll tell you the FD1010 or the FD1018, which are essentially the same one with more trays.
Right.
They're my favorite dehydrator. They can stack up to 30 trays. What I like about them is, hey, if I got an elk, I would be making a lot of jerky myself. And do I want to do 10 batches or do I want to do 2 batches, and I can do 30 trays at a time and I can do it in 2 batches and I make a lot of jerky and I set up a process, right? Make my jerky, make my mess, vacuum seal everything at one time, put it in the freezer.
Done.
I'm done. But then there's other times where, hey, I got a little bit of leftover hamburger and I want to make some jerky for the kids this week. I can go down to as low as 2 trays on this unit and actually, make it very easily. Now, what I like about the stainless steel unit, it's a fixed number of trays, but the stainless steel is just easy to clean.
Right.
Easy to take care of. But when it comes to just expandability and versatility, I just like the FD1010. It's been around a long time. Our airflow system within this unit, it was designed over 30 years ago and is still the best airflow system on the market today. So that's the one that I like, but honestly, we're the #1 name in dehydrators, and we know what we're doing with it, but we have ones that have differentiations depending on what you're going to use it for.
Whatever fits your need, right?
Exactly. So now back to the ground meat itself. I've mixed in the spices, I've mixed in the seasoning, I've got my seasoning packets here.
I'll get rid of this stuff for you.
Sure, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to start mixing that in. Now, we're only doing a couple pounds here, in this case 4 pounds. I can do it by hand. If you're going to do big batch, like I said, if I was going to do an entire elk, we actually sell a meat mixer, and that works really well for doing big batches. But honestly, all you have to do is kind of mix it around with your hands. And you'll see we have a jerky gun right here. It's actually very similar to a caulk gun. So, Larry, if I could get you to take that top off. Perfect.
Okay.
And you can pull that all the way back. Yep, just like that.
All right, Rick, you got it all mixed up there. And
Yep.
basically just did it by hand.
Yeah, I just mixed it all in by hand. You want to make sure you get a good mix. Matter of fact, one of the things I recommend is you let it sit for about 15 minutes after you're done mixing. That's going to let basically the different seasonings to blend into the meat a little bit. So once you're done
more
mixing,
consistency, you're thinking?
exactly.
Okay.
What you don't want is bite into a chunk of seasoning. So let it sit for about 15 minutes and dissolve in a little bit more. We've done that now, and we're ready to pack the jerky gun.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, you got it all set to go, and
Yep.
I'm just going to go ahead and stuff that in.
You get it as tight as you can, or?
Nah, you don't have to. You just
Okay.
don't make it hard on yourself. I kind of roll. What I'll do is I'll kind of roll it in a circle a little bit.
Just so it fits in
and
there
just
nice.
push that
huh?
in there like that. Yep, perfect. Sticking that down in there because once we start actually extruding the meat out, it'll take all the air out. So you're pretty good right there. Why don't you go ahead and put the top on?
Okay. There you go.
Do you want the other tips sitting there like that?
Nope. Still kind of giving us some challenges here.
Son of a gun.
Good pun, Larry.
Yeah. That's why, you know what, that's why I said I'm not doing it.
It's kind of fun.
It does look like fun.
I think I'd like to use that for decorating a cake.
Work out good for that
Remember,
frosting.
we have a jalapeno popper stuffer that's built on the same product. It came, my grandma used to make wedding cakes. I had help her make them. And Cabela's asked me to design a jalapeno popper stuffer. And I used my experience from doing that, and I used a rosette tip to do it. It worked out great. Yeah, it was just, again, back to what we talked earlier. It's kind of funny what you know, with the things you learn in life and how they come back later. You know, like who would have known decorating wedding cakes, you know? I'm like, I just help her do it, and I'm like, that's cool, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I could do a lot of pounds of jerky in this dehydrator.
Can you do beef jerky?
Yeah, we were talking about that before. I've had it, but I've never had it where it's like you eat it and you're like, I want some more of that. Usually I'm like,
It's not good.
yeah.
And even like bird jerky in general is just not great. And you get people every once in a while, like ducks especially, they like doing ducks. And if I found one I liked, it'd be awesome, but I haven't found one I liked. I think Michelle Scuba and I run probably a very close contest of who's made more jerky in their life in this world. Every trade show we've ever had, you know, we make jerky for the trade shows to give away.
Yeah.
And so we'd make, 100 pounds.
Holy no.
Because you'd be able to do a 5-day
Yeah.
trade show.
That's
You
a
give
good
away
one.
ton. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick, we pretty much went through that 4 pounds of elk meat pretty fast. That certainly didn't take very long. So now the next step is obviously we got it all in the
Yep.
dehydrator. And I'm going to close her up here. How long, even though our racks aren't all full,
Yep.
how long do I need to, how many minutes on jerky?
Well, it really won't change the time whether it's full or not
It
full.
won't?
It won't, yeah.
Okay, that's
Because the
interesting.
thermostat's going to adjust it. That thermostat's set to 165 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
It'll take about 7, maybe 8 hours, depending on how dry you want it.
Okay.
And it really is about your preference. Like, do you like it drier? Do you like it more crispy when you bite into it, or chewy, or do you like it a little bit more where it's easier to bite into? Again, the other thing nice about a ground meat jerky is you don't tear your teeth out trying to bite into it. You can bite into it. It's really easy to break off. A lot of folks like that better. And then a lot of folks really like it where you tear it. And I tell you what, if you like that, go the whole meat jerky.
Right.
But I tell you what, the flavor on this is so good because when you do it with the ground meat and you mix everything together, that flavor is
Consistent
consistent through the whole thing. Marinades are hit and miss sometimes, whether you get the good uptake on the marinade or not. So I like the whole meat jerky, but I really like the ground meat jerky for its ease, convenience, and how good the flavor is all the way through.
That makes sense. Hey, so I got to tell you, I have one little problem.
Yeah.
The problem is that once this is in there for about 3-4 hours, the smell kind of gets to me, and I open the door up a lot and start looking at it and sampling it. Is that a problem as far as am I messing up my heat consistency, or I mean,
Yes.
Okay.
The short answer is yes.
Okay.
It does.
Yes,
But
keep the door closed.
So keep the door closed, but honestly, if you open up, you check it, it's not going to hurt anything. It may add half an hour, 45 minutes to
Okay.
the process, but every time you open the door, it's a low wattage heater because one of the things with jerky is You don't want to cook it.
Slower the better,
The
huh?
slower the better. You want to cure it. So it's a very low heat, a slow process, because again, you're not cooking it, you're curing it. So, if you open it up like that, it takes a while for that heat to get back up to it, but 7 hours, 8 hours, I mean, it really doesn't matter when it's done. It's going to be it's not going to affect the finished product.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Hey, one more thing I want to talk to you about chard and Nesco is that a lot of people might not know that, so many more people are getting back into doing they're cutting their deer up themselves, but you guys sell grinders,
Yep.
you sell slicers. Let's tell people about some of the other great products that they might want to take a look at that obviously are going to help them make their life a little bit easier and make it a little bit more enjoyable.
And charredproducts.com is our website for all of our charred products. You can go there, you can do all the research you want. We make some of the best grinders in the market. We make grinders, we make slicers, dehydrators, knife kits, and all this comes from a place where we use the product. It comes from my background, other people's background of using these products that are relevant to the hunter. Some of our competitors are just looking to us and saying, hey, look, they got a nice product, we should do one of those too. And I'll give you a great example. We make a stamp set. Now, this isn't a huge selling product of ours, but the stamp set has things like, hey, the date code on it. And here's the big thing. So many people vacuum seal nowadays.
Huge.
We made the stamps so that they're actually using a solvent-based ink, so they stamp on a vacuum seal bag. I was using my vacuum seal one day, and I was writing everything with a Sharpie pen.
That's usually how I did it.
That's usually how I did it too. And I'm like, wow, you know what? If I could just stamp these, it would be so much easier. Now, again, it's not a huge product for us, but it came from a place of where I was actually doing the processing. And I said, hey, this is something that I would like to have. Therefore, I think it's something that other people would like to have. And that really is a lot of our product comes from that place.
Hands-on.
Yep, we're the guys using it. We like it. We develop around it. And I'll tell you what, you'll find that with all the charred product, that it's relevant to how you're going to use it.
That's awesome. Hey, I'll tell you what, that's why we brought you in here, and that's why we love partnering up with you guys, because you guys are all about, the experience.